All right, y'all, let's get straight into it because this episode is shaping up to be one of the wildest rides Power Book 4 Force has ever given us. The promo is saying Tommy shoots Diamond, and whether it's real, a setup, or a twist meant to break our brains, one thing is clear: nothing is the same after this. So let's talk about where things stand right now, because the tension between Tommy and Diamond has been building since Season 2, but in Season 3, it's starting to feel like a pressure cooker ready to explode. In Episode 1, we already saw cracks between them, but Episode 2, this is where those cracks turn into straight-up earthquakes. Diamond knows Tommy is unpredictable, but what he doesn't know is that the walls are closing in from every direction, from Miguel's silent schemes, from Shanti's whispered plans, from Vic's breakdown that could blow up at any moment, and from the task force that Stacy is practically foaming at the mouth to unleash. And Tommy, being Tommy, is trying to hold everything together while also pulling every string in the city at once. But the problem is, when you carry the whole empire on your back, sooner or later, you start swinging at anyone who even looks like a threat, even if that threat is the person standing next to you. And the crazy part? Diamond isn't innocent either. He's hiding things. He's making moves behind Tommy's back. He's trying to keep Jannard in check while also navigating King Kilo, DMac, and the mess they all created last season. And the more the pressure builds, the more Tommy starts to feel like Diamond is slipping out of his control. What we see in the promo, Tommy pointing a gun straight at Diamond, isn't just a moment. It's the result of everything boiling over at once. Because right now, Diamond is stuck between loyalty, survival, and pride. And the man is making decisions that could get everyone killed. Meanwhile, Tommy is being hunted by Miguel's people, stalked by Stacy's task force, and forced to babysit Vic, who's one emotional meltdown away from ruining the entire operation. So when Tommy gets a push too far, when he feels betrayed, when he senses weakness, he snaps. That's always been Tommy Egan's curse. And Diamond? He might be the one standing in front of him at the wrong time. But let's break down why this confrontation is happening in the first place. First off, Vic. This man is a walking disaster. He's playing Stacy and Tommy at the same time, even though he isn't built for this life. And in Episode 2, his desperation is going to spill into everything. Stacy wants him to go deeper. Tommy forces him to go deeper. Claudia wants revenge. And Vic, he just wants to breathe for 5 seconds. But because he can't handle the pressure, he's going to slip. And that slip, that one mistake, is going to get back to Tommy. You know Tommy. Once he smells betrayal, he doesn't ask questions. He reacts. And that reaction is probably one of the reasons he goes after Diamond. And then there's DMac. This boy cannot stay out of trouble even if you paid him to. He's reckless, angry, emotional, and way too close to Tommy for Diamond's comfort. Last episode already showed that Diamond is fed up. But in Episode 2, something DMac does, or something Diamond does to DMac, is going to ignite Tommy in a way we haven't seen since New York. Diamond wants to keep DMac alive? Maybe. Maybe not. But what Diamond does want is control, and Tommy does not share control with anyone. So when DMac becomes a bargaining chip, or a threat, or a sacrifice someone wants to make, that's when everything collapses. Tommy doesn't let anyone hurt the people he claims. And Diamond making moves on DMac without telling Tommy, that could easily push Tommy to pull a gun on him. And let's not forget Miguel. He told Maria he wouldn't hurt Tommy, and we all knew he was lying through his teeth. He's plotting from the shadows, sending people after Tommy and Maria, hoping no one traces it back to him. But if one of those attacks gets misinterpreted, if Tommy thinks Diamond had something to do with it, if he believes for even a second that Diamond is working with someone else, boom, Tommy goes into survival mode. And when Tommy goes into survival mode, nobody is safe, not even Diamond. So now imagine all of this chaos slamming into Tommy at once. Vic's betrayal, Miguel's attacks, Stacy hunting him, Shanti's plans, Jannard's stupidity, DMac being a ticking time bomb, and Diamond trying to run the city his own way. Tommy is stretched thin. He's angry. He's paranoid. And Diamond? He's trying to be the leader of CBI while also keeping Tommy from burning everything down. That clash of power, that struggle for control, is why we see a gun pointed in Diamond's face. And if Tommy pulls that trigger, Chicago will never be the same. This isn't just a fight. This is the start of a war. Now let's get into what's really pushing this entire situation toward madness, because Episode 2 is about to expose every hidden crack in Tommy and Diamond's partnership, and trust me, Those cracks are deeper than anyone realized. The biggest problem right now is that both of these men think they're the ones holding the city together, when in reality, they're both dragging each other straight into chaos. Diamond believes he's the strategist, the calmer mind, the one who can navigate politics, rival crews, and the drug game all at once. But the truth is, he's slipping. Slowly, quietly, but slipping. He's so focused on keeping Jannard in check, proving to the city that CBI is stronger than ever, and making life-or-death decisions behind Tommy's back, that he doesn't see how dangerous the situation has become. And on the other side, you have Tommy, a man who thrives on chaos, but hates the feeling of losing control. Tommy doesn't just run the streets. He dominates them, and anytime someone threatens that control, even unintentionally, he reacts with violence. That's why this moment with the gun, this point-blank confrontation between two men who started as allies, feels like it was inevitable from the start. And the biggest catalyst in all of this? Jannard and Shanti. These two are basically the devil and the devil's advisor. Jannard thinks he's smarter than he is, constantly making emotional decisions, constantly trying to prove that he's still relevant, and completely blind to the fact that Shanti is the one steering the entire ship. Shanti wants to dismantle everything from the inside. She wants CBI, she wants power, and she knows exactly how to twist Jannard around her finger. And the worst part is, Diamond still doesn't see the full picture. He thinks he's protecting Jannard. He thinks he's managing the threat. But Shanti? She's 5 steps ahead, and in episode 2, her influence is going to push Jannard into a move that makes Tommy furious. Because when Tommy sees CBI acting strange, making deals without him, moving pieces without telling him, he's instantly going to suspect betrayal, and the person who gets the blame is always the one standing closest. That's Diamond. And while all of this is happening, Vic is completely falling apart. In the promo, we saw him snapping, venting to Stacy, and nearly losing control in front of Tommy. Vic is trying to play both sides, but he's terrible at it. He's stressed, paranoid, and terrified of both Tommy and the task force. And because he's scared, he's about to make sloppy choices. One wrong word, one misplaced detail, one moment of panic. And suddenly it looks like Diamond and CBI are working against Tommy. That's all it takes. And Stacy, who is obsessed with bringing Tommy down, will use Vic's slip to push him even harder. She'll throw him into situations he's not ready for, force him to report things he shouldn't know, and Vic will end up feeding Tommy the wrong information. If Tommy hears something from Vic that even slightly makes Diamond look guilty, Tommy will act on it instantly. That man doesn't investigate, he judges. And he uses a gun as punctuation. And then there's DMac, Tommy's Achilles heel. DMac is reckless, impulsive, and messy, but he's Tommy's family. And that alone makes him untouchable. Diamond knows this. Jannard knows this. Shanti definitely knows this. And that's why DMac becomes the perfect pressure point. In episode 1, we already saw how fed up Diamond is with DMac's foolishness. But in episode 2, the situation gets worse. Whether it's Jannard threatening DMac, Diamond agreeing to something shady involving him, or DMac putting himself in danger that links back to CBI, one thing is clear. Tommy will blame Diamond for whatever happens, because Tommy doesn't play about DMac. He already lost Ghost, he lost Liliana, he lost everything in New York. DMac is the one thing he's trying desperately to protect. So, the moment DMac becomes a target, Tommy becomes a weapon. It's that simple. And let's not act like Miguel isn't stirring the pot too. He's smiling in Maria's face, pretending to be respectful, pretending to let go. But behind closed doors, he's planning every move that will lead to Tommy's downfall. He knows he can't touch Tommy directly without risking everything. So he's sabotaging the streets, paying people off, planting seeds of conflict, pushing smaller crews toward violence, basically creating chaos and waiting for Tommy and Diamond to destroy each other. And in episode 2, one of Miguel's moves is going to look like it came from CBI, or look like Diamond had something to do with it. And that confusion, that's exactly the moment Tommy pulls a gun on Diamond. It's not because he wants him dead, it's because he thinks Diamond is the one trying to take him out. And when Tommy thinks someone is coming for him, Even if it's someone he cares about, Tommy always reacts the same way, with a bullet. So when you put all of this together, Shanti's manipulation, Jannard's stupidity, Vic's panic, Stacy's obsession, Miguel's schemes, and DMac's recklessness, you end up with the perfect storm Tommy versus Diamond. A partnership built on loyalty and ambition, now twisted into suspicion and violence. And the craziest part? This is only episode 2. If Tommy really shoots Diamond, or even if it's a warning shot, or even if Diamond gets hurt during a setup or misunderstanding, everything changes. The alliance breaks, CBI collapses, Shanti strikes, Miguel advances, Stacy celebrates. And Tommy? He becomes the most dangerous man in Chicago all over again. Now let's dive deeper, because episode 2 is shaping up to be the exact moment where every unspoken issue between Tommy and Diamond explodes into something neither of them can walk back from. At this point, their partnership is hanging on by a single thread, and honestly, it's a miracle it lasted this long. Ever since Tommy came to Chicago, he's been pushing boundaries, making deals Diamond never approved, starting wars they weren't ready for, and dragging CBI into situations that would have never happened under Diamond's leadership. And while Diamond went along with it because he wanted to build something powerful, something untouchable, he never agreed to become a sidekick in his own city. And that resentment? It's been building, even if Diamond refuses to admit it out loud. The problem is, Tommy senses it. Tommy can smell hesitation the way a shark smells blood in the ocean, and when he senses someone close to him pulling away, he becomes paranoid. He becomes possessive. And that paranoia is exactly what sets up this entire moment where Tommy turns a gun on Diamond. And let's talk about what's happening inside Diamond's world right now, because he's not just dealing with Tommy, he's juggling fires from every direction. Jannard is spiraling yet again, proving for the 1000th time that he can't be trusted with even the simplest task. Shanti is whispering in Jannard's ear, planting ideas, turning him into a weapon, and aiming him directly at both Diamond and Tommy. King Kilo is watching CBI like a hawk, waiting for the smallest sign of weakness so he can strike. And worst of all, the streets are getting hot again because everyone thinks CBI is back on top, which means every small-time crew and wannabe hitter wants a piece. In the middle of all this chaos, Diamond is trying to be the stable one, the leader, the decision-maker. But behind that calm face, he's barely holding it together. And that pressure? It's changing him. Slowly but surely, Diamond is becoming more ruthless, more secretive, and more willing to make dangerous choices if it means keeping power. That shift is subtle, but Tommy notices it. And Tommy does not like when someone close to him starts acting unpredictable. And then you add Vic into the mix, a man who is practically built out of fear. At this point, Vic is the reason so much tension exists now. His betrayal still hangs over the entire crew. His lies, his deals with Stacy, his mistakes, everything about him is a liability. And instead of getting better in episode 2, he becomes even more unstable. He talks too much in front of the wrong people. He panics when things get dangerous. He desperately tries to convince Stacy he's in control, while also begging Tommy to trust him. That back and forth makes him a walking disaster. And because of that, one of the things Vic says, or fails to say, is going to make Tommy question Diamond's loyalty. Stacy is pushing Vic hard, making him dig deeper, making him investigate things he doesn't understand. And Vic's fear leads him to deliver information to Tommy that sounds like Diamond is moving behind his back. Whether Vic means to or not, he becomes the spark that lights Tommy's suspicion on fire. But the biggest trigger of all? DMac. This kid is the match thrown into a room filled with gasoline. DMac is fearless in the worst way possible. He's emotional, impulsive, and still refuses to listen to anyone. And in episode 2, he's going to do something. Either confront the wrong person, get involved in business he shouldn't, or react out of anger. That directly connects back to Diamond. Maybe Diamond approves something without telling Tommy. Maybe Jannard takes a shot at DMac behind Diamond's back, or maybe DMac overhears something and runs straight to Tommy. Whatever it is, the moment Tommy believes Diamond put DMac in danger, the entire city loses oxygen. Tommy does not forgive anyone who threatens the people he considers family. We've seen what he did to Holly. We saw how he reacted to Ghost. We saw how far he went for Liliana. DMac is in that same category. So if Tommy even thinks Diamond was involved in something harmful to DMac, that confrontation becomes unavoidable. And as all this is happening, Miguel is quietly playing puppet master. This man is evil in the most controlled, calculated way. He's pretending to keep his distance while planning every move needed to destroy Tommy from the shadows. And in episode 2, Miguel sets up something big, something violent, something messy, something that makes the streets think CBI is losing control, and the way it's executed makes it look like the betrayal came from inside Tommy's own circle. Miguel's entire plan is to make Tommy paranoid enough to turn on Diamond, and judging by that promo, it's working, because when Tommy storms into a room with his gun drawn and Diamond standing there looking shocked, that is not a random moment. That is the final result of Miguel's manipulation. Vic's meltdown, Jannard's stupidity, Shanti's scheming, DMac's recklessness, and Diamond's pressure boiling over. It's a chain reaction, and Tommy pulling that gun is the explosion. And that's why this scene is so important. This isn't just Tommy threatening Diamond. This is the breaking point of their entire alliance. Everything they built since season 1 is hanging by a thread. Diamond might try to talk his way out of it, he might stand his ground, or he might finally snap back at Tommy. But no matter what, this moment changes everything. Because once Tommy points a gun at you, the relationship never goes back to normal. Trust breaks, respect shifts, power changes hands. And the streets? They're about to choose sides, and trust me, Chicago is not big enough for two kings who both think they run the city. Now let's talk about what happens after that gun gets pulled, because the fallout from this moment is going to reshape the entire season in ways nobody is ready for. Up until now, Tommy and Diamond have been operating like two generals fighting the same war from different sides of the battlefield, different strategies, different philosophies, but the same goal. But episode 2 shows us that the distance between them is now too wide to ignore. The second that gun is raised, every hidden resentment, every questionable decision, every betrayal, real or imagined, comes flooding to the surface. Diamond isn't just shocked, he's hurt. Because no matter how rough things have gotten, Diamond never saw Tommy as a threat. He saw him as a partner, maybe even a brother in arms. But Tommy? That man has lived his whole life expecting betrayal from the people he trusts. So the second someone acts suspicious, even if it's unintentional, Tommy's survival instincts kick in. And this situation is no different. From Tommy's perspective, too many things are going wrong. Too many attacks are happening. Too many moves are being made in the shadows. And when chaos like this hits, Tommy doesn't look at enemies first. He looks at the people closest to him. That's why Diamond ends up staring down the barrel of Tommy's gun. But what makes this moment even more intense is that Diamond has been doing some shady things of his own. He's been holding back information. He's been making decisions that affect Tommy without talking to him first. He's listening to Kilo. He's listening to Jannard even when he shouldn't. And worst of all, he's letting tension between Tommy and CBI grow unchecked. Diamond thinks he's being smart, thinks he's keeping equilibrium. But in reality, he's creating an environment where nobody knows who to trust. And Tommy thrives in war, not in silence. The more Diamond tries to move quietly, the more Tommy starts to see him as a threat. And in episode 2, those quiet moves finally come back to bite Diamond. Whether it's a deal he struck, a plan he approved, or a warning he failed to deliver, something Diamond does or doesn't do directly puts Tommy in danger. And when Tommy feels cornered, he reacts without hesitation. That's why Section 4 is so important. This is where the consequences start piling up. Meanwhile, Jannard is off doing what he does best, being a liability. He's out in the streets, making promises he can't keep, threatening people he shouldn't threaten, and throwing around CBI's name like it's a cheat code to survival. And Shanti is behind him every step of the way, pushing him toward decisions that further destabilize CBI's hold on the streets. And let's be real, Shanti is smart enough to know that Tommy and Diamond are already on thin ice with each other. She knows that all it takes is one well-placed rumor, one piece of misinformation, or one staged confrontation to make them turn on each other, and if Shanti sees tension, she will absolutely exploit it. In episode 2, she's probably going to do something small, something subtle, that adds fuel to this fire. Maybe she plants a whisper. Maybe she redirects blame. Maybe she sends someone to drop false information in the right ear. But no matter what, Shanti's fingerprints are going to be all over this conflict.